Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a very important book from Informa. Anybody who's been involved and had problems within the last few years concerning the major economic crisis we've had will find this book of some assistance to them, I'm sure, in the world of Lloyd's Insurance. The book I'm looking at is entitled Systemic Risk and the Future of Insurance Regulation. It's part of the Lloyd's Insurance Law Library, and the book's been edited by Andromachi Georgiou-Souli and Miriam Goldby. And I do apologise if I've not pronounced the names correctly, but I'd like to thank Andromachi and Miriam very much for this work. It's an important work, we'll look at it in a moment. It's come to us from Informa Law and Routledge, which is of course part of the Taylor and Francis group. And we've given it a title for our written review. At last, some insightful perspectives on the insurance industry and systemic risk. Now, our reviews appear in the journals and on the web, and this video is to go with them. We only review books which we think are of a very high quality and directly relevant to us in practice for both the bar and those in solicitors' firms. Paralegals, I know, will find this helpful. They're not regulated in the same way, but the general comments that are being put forward will, I hope, assist you in understanding what this book is about and similar books. There's the front cover, black with the red title there. Spine, there's nothing on the back. It's a light book, it's a hardback, and actually runs to under 200 pages. There's the index at the back, which you can see. The paragraph, it's actually paragraph numbered, so when you look at in fact it isn't paragraph numbered, this one, I do apologise, this is actually page numbered, not paragraph numbered, so you should be able to find things quite easily. We are now developing a lot of books where there's paragraph numbering only in the indexes, which does make a bit of a problem, but not here. This is page numbering. There's the front page, and this is the list in the series of the library books. We have actually reviewed some of the works in the past, not very many, but a few of them, and they are all of a very, very high quality. This one says first published in 2016, although I'm reviewing this towards the end of 2015. That's the table of contents there. Shows you the details. Can I just point out that the names of the people who've written the individual chapters do appear, because this is an edited book by the two main authors. What you do have in addition is a very useful conclusions section, which I also think is of great help in trying to understand what actually comes out of the particular points that are being made. Then there's a very useful foreword, which I shall refer to again in a moment, by Sean McGovern, which you can see there. Do read that, because the foreword in fact sets the scene. The preface also does, and again it's quite detailed, but again the preface itself is actually really setting the scene. It says the expression systemic risk and financial stability have surely never been more widespread use than in the aftermath of 2008-2009 crisis. Exactly so. That's why we need the book. And I do think it sets a balance. Then you've got the biographical notes of the individual contributors, of which there are a large number, you can see there. Some of them will be very well known to you, with extreme experience, very, very important people in their own spheres, and very erudite, certainly knowledgeable. Very short list of cases, some statutes, conventions and so forth. And then the introduction. The increasingly complicated nature of financial markets means that we are more than ever exposed to the adverse consequences of shocks and crises. Well, that sums it up in many ways, because that's what this book is about. And I think it gives you, with a lot of footnoting, which you can see to justify assertions made, it gives a great deal of assistance by the various contributors. You can see that's one about the United States of America. It does give you a great deal of information to assist you with your day-to-day function. Now, this is what we say about the book. As the title indicates, this book presents a variety of perspectives on the future of insurance regulation and the actual effects of such regulation on systemic risk, a term which is understood at least partly, but which continues to defy precise definition. Although in practice as solicitors or at the bar now, we do know what risk management is, and we do know what the concept of risk is when we're running our own businesses, of course. Nevertheless, this book is an important one, especially within the United Kingdom financial services sector, considering the importance of the insurance industry to the United Kingdom economy. It's useful to be reminded by the two editors and by Sean McGovern, who's the Chief Risk Officer and General Counsel at Lloyd's, that serious studies of banking far outnumber those related to insurance, probably because of what happened 8 years ago. There certainly can't be much doubt then that this book will and certainly should attract much attention and comment within the insurance industry and those connected with it. It's been published recently. As I've indicated, it says 2016 in the book, although I'm actually reviewing this towards the end of 2015. It's come to us from Informa, part of Routledge and the Taylor Francis organisation, and it's the result of the round table on systemic risk and the future of insurance regulation held at Lloyd's in 2013 and developed by the Centre for Commercial Law Studies, that's the CCLS, which is at Queen Mary's at the University of London, where the editors and at least two of the other contributors are based. It's been sponsored by Lloyd's and Informa, and this significant event celebrated the launch of the Centre's Insurance Law Institute, which I'm sure will be of great assistance to all of those involved in that area of practice. The result, of course, is a collection of carefully researched articles by the 10 contributors, all leading experts in their field, although this is a monumental understatement in view of their impressive list of credentials, mainly from law, from the city and the transatlantic academic community, so thank you to all of them. The contributors, say the editors, attempt to provide a variety and a varied and multifaceted examination of whether and to what extent the reforms which have taken place following the crisis of 2008, with of course its consequent bailouts, failures and too big to fail syndromes, whether they are sufficient to address systemic risks that may be generated or possibly exacerbated by the future activities of the insurance sector. So whenever appropriate, suggestions are made for what might be done to prevent the whole ghastly scenario from happening again. Although while so many economies remain damaged, there's no guarantee that it won't, and I think one has always got to have that borne in mind, whether you be a politician, economist or a lawyer. Systemic risk is intrinsic to systemic failure, and this is the topic, or more accurately the problem, which comes under scrutiny in this book. As one of the authors explains, quote, systemic risk refers to the risk or probability of breakdown of the entire financial system, as opposed to breakdowns in individual parts or components. And it's further explained that any risk, including risks to credit, liquidity, interest rates or exchange rates, can grow into systemic proportions which can either threaten or engulf any number of other institutions. Of course, that's a political consideration which successive governments have had to take into account. What makes the matter stubbornly difficult to deal with is the lack of any universality accepted definition of what we mean by systemic risk. And that, says the author, especially exists when such risks seldom occur alone, they usually spread to other risks like fire. So what we're talking about here is an all-encompassing type of risk, not a specific category, if you can follow my thinking. Let me conclude by saying, and how and why in detail does all this impact on the insurance industry and its regulation? Less of it or more of it? Is that the answer? Well, to find out if there is an answer at all, you need to read the book. For example, the chapter on what history can tell us about insurance regulation is succinct, yet revealing, and sets the stage for further examination and discussion throughout the very readable and copiously footnoted text. It's not a long book, as I say, but I found it very interesting to read through. From legal counsel to policymakers in government and in the insurance industry itself, this book is an important contribution to the, at present, rather scarce commentary on this vital sector. The publication date is actually cited as at February 2016, but I think actually that is probably 2015, bearing in mind what we are talking about here, because the when we look at the preface itself, it's actually got 2015 down, because that was when the original preface was written. But I think we are looking more ahead now, because it's been published for 2016. Those are the contributors again, which I'll just indicate to you. And then if we just go into the book itself, this is chapter 7, again on the United States, right in the middle. We've got some other chapters here. You do have some paragraph numbering, which you can see on the sides to go with the footnoting. So you should find things well, although the actual index itself is page numbered. This is anticipating new sources of systemic risk in insurance. So you can see again, it is looking very, very hard at the problems we've had. And I think the conclusion to a lot of this, there's the index, the conclusion to a lot of this, so we don't want it to happen again. Thank you anyway to the two editors. That's, and I'm going to hope I get his name right, Andromachi Giorgiosouli, I think that's correct, Giorgiosouli, and Miriam Golby. Again, apologies for any mispronunciation. Thank you to all concerned. It's an excellent book. Do have a look at our reviews on the web and in the journals, and let's hope it doesn't happen again. Bye-bye.